Hey, this is Heather Lutze from the Findability Group, and I'm here with Natalie Marlette.
And I am the Sales and Marketing Manager for the Findability Group.
We like to sit down every quarter or so and come up with some videos that are really going to be high value based off experiences that we've had here at the company working with clients every day. We recently wrote a column for Website Magazine, and we've been writing for them about 9 months
now. Yeah, we're hitting on close to a year.
Yeah, so if you haven't checked out Website Magazine, that's a pretty amazing periodical. They work really hard to get good quality content, and we've had a lot of really interesting feedback about our Twitter article.
Yeah.
And it's about, I'm on Twitter, ... now what, if you're looking for the article. But we thought what we'd talk about today is some top ways in which to avoid mistakes in how you tweet, and maybe we can even talk about things you should tweet about.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and I think it's, I think every business hits the roadblock where, all right, I've been tweeting for a couple of months and I am out of content. Right. What do I do now?
Right, and I think Twitter really suffers from a lot of faddish sort of behavior. Like, you get really initially excited about it, and then it's like, boring. You don't really get it, or it's like it was fun for about the first 20 minutes, and then now you're like, how does this really apply to my business?
Right, absolutely.
I'd say some of the tragic mistakes we've seen for people, especially when they set up their Twitter profiles, is they don't really think about it as being a professional platform.
Right.
And so the core things that we talk about are have a really professional background.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really key in terms of, anything you put on Twitter has the face of your business. So think about your website. If you're comfortable having it on your website, then you'd be comfortable having it on your Twitter profile.
Yeah, and make sure when you're looking at that background that you have your contact information, maybe your picture, because people want to have relationships with people, not logos.
Yep.
And then maybe even a call to action about what you're going to give those subscribers or your fellow tweets.
Absolutely, and also keep in mind when you're putting that profile together, one of the most valuable things to include is a link to your website on your Twitter profile.
Great idea.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen a business where they have a great profile and there's no way to get to that business's website. Right. People don't think the obvious. They don't think to start Googling your name. They want it to be easy, and that's one of the best ways to make it easy.
Well, another thing we talk about from a findability standpoint is Twitter is a search engine in its own right.
Absolutely.
So how we have titled ours, it's Heather Lutze, and then in the profile I've used search engine marketing specialist, internet marketing consultant, search engine marketing speaker. So if I go to search.twitter.com, I'm able to find you.
Right, absolutely.
What would you recommend in regard to how we use keywords in our tweets?
Sure. So there's a couple things to keep in mind when it comes to Twitter. Twitter's a little bit different than a typical search engine. In a typical search engine, you get ranking based on the length of your domain, how many inbound links you get, those types of things. In Twitter, you actually get more precedence by how recently you did it or if somebody retweeted it. So in terms of Twitter, the game is not necessarily to have that 5, 6, 7 keyword string, long tail keyword in your tweet post, but to have a good 2 to 3 word keyword phrase and to use it repetitiously. So, a lot of times we tell clients, make sure to put those keywords in your tweet post somewhere, and they do it once. Once is great, but we mean every single time. Every time you write a tweet post, that's an opportunity for somebody to find you on Twitter, and the only way they're going to be able to do it is if they've got a keyword they can connect with.
Right.
And another really big important thing that's different in Twitter, that's not typically in the search engines, is hashtags.
What's a hashtag? We're not talking about like corned beef hash.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about that. Well, I know, it's almost lunchtime, so, nothing goes with a little bit of coffee like corned beef. A hashtag is basically a Twitter-specific keyword. Groups or events, or even organizations, will just set up a hashtag. For example, ours is #GetFound. And you basically set that up, and that's your keyword. And everybody who's looking for information about that company or about that event basically has that hashtag, and every time they search that hashtag, they can see all of the conversation happening around that event.
Right, and one interesting thing I've seen too is if you've seen some upcoming trends, you want to talk about the BP oil spill, you have something to say about that, you can use their hashtag in your tweet, and by doing that, you insert that into their conversation so that you have something valuable to say as part of that conversation.
Well, and using hashtags is actually one of the best tricks to building those Twitter followers. We always have people asking, how do I build those Twitter followers? hashtags is a great way to do that, because you're basically talking to other people in your industry, and
right.
you're letting them know that you're part of that conversation and you're an expert in that conversation.
Right.
So, other hashtags that we use a lot are pound internet marketing, pound SEO, pound SEM. All those hashtags, when we use them, that's how other industry professionals find us and follow us.
Right.
And then once they follow us, we can start following their followers.
Well, and also, like, I'm going to a conference here, and a lot of times the people at the conference will specifically watch the conference hashtag, because that gives them kind of the pulse of what's going live at the event.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to be tweeting using that hashtag to make sure people attend my session.
Yep.
That's really super important. So what else should we think about regarding Twitter?
Well, sure. Just one more thing on the hashtags.
Yeah.
For all of our listeners, one of the best ways to find out what your best hashtags are is actually a website called hashtags.org. If you check that out, you can really look into see if there's hashtags specific to your business.
And it's really interesting, almost like a branding sort of effort. Once you grab your hashtag and you start aggressively using it, there's no way to formally register a hashtag that I know of.
No.
You just start using it. And but the more you use it, the more you kind of claim it as your own.
Yep.
The quicker you become kind of the authority under that.
Right.
That
well, and the goal is to build the community under that hashtag.
Right.
The goal is to get everybody involved in that hashtag.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about what not to tweet about.
Yes, I've never seen that. I mean, anyone ever seen on Twitter an affiliate marketer or a Viagra tweet?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen them. One thing I think that we should talk about is, how do you prevent those negative tweets from showing up? Like, say I see a Viagra tweet that shows up on my tweet stream. What do I do? How do I get it off so it doesn't happen again?
Sure. Well, you have a couple of options. One of the best things to do to prevent that from ever happening is, every time, don't turn on that auto follow on your Twitter, or if you do, every time you follow somebody, check them out just really quick. Make sure that they're not part of, an industry that you don't want your company associated with.
Make sure they have a face.
Yep.
And make sure they're talking about things that you're interested in.
Right. And make sure that they're not doing something that's going to reflect badly on your brand. There are some people on Twitter who use profanity, who talk about industries that not all of us want to be associated with.
Right.
We want to be really careful because remember, Twitter is part of your brand. Your Twitter profile is an extension of your brand. So if your Twitter profile is going to follow somebody, you have to be comfortable with the fact that people are going to associate that with your brand.
Right, and I think that being mindful of, oftentimes I'll go in and vet out people that I know are obviously affiliate marketers or spammers, and it's pretty easy to see by looking at your followers who they are.
Yep. And
and so that's a very important component here. But what should we not? So let's put the shoe on the other foot, right? We write all of our tweets at the beginning of every month, thanks to our amazing social media manager, Jimmy.
Yep.
Love you, Jimmy.
Yeah, you're awesome.
And so we sit down and we actually have pages and pages of tweets.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we do is we quote industry leaders, like I'll often quote Bill Gates or the founders of Google.
Yep.
People love to retweet that kind of information. They love quotes.
Yeah.
We do a findability tip series, what are actionable tips with links on things we should do to help increase your findability.
Right.
What else can you think of that
Sure,
we do?
we love doing quotes. News articles are really big, especially in our industry. There's always something happening with Google or with Yahoo or with Bing. So just keeping track of what's going on in the news and being able to just give that to our followers is, hey, here's a heads up, Google just passed this piece of legislation, they just got this patent approved.
Right.
And that kind of thing is always really valuable for our users.
If you're going to be seen as an industry leader and not just a junk pusher, really, on your tweet feed, you've got to really be committed to pushing out the highest quality tweet information you can.
Yes.
And we've given you just a few ideas here. Check out the website magazine article, and also, all this methodology is covered in the book, The Findability Formula, which is the premise for everything we do here at the Findability Group. So thank you so much for joining us this time, and we'll see you next time.
All right.